This is Stop Eating My Popcorn on Biz 99.9 FM Substitute Radio. I'm Glenn Blank. I just finished watching Tim Burton's Beetlejuice, and now I've watched 4 movies part of this Tim Burton movie marathon, and I have to say that Beetlejuice is the best of the 4. Beetlejuice as a movie has a unique and unusual personality. It has a very funny sense of humour, and it has a certain general charm about it. The story is interesting and exciting, and you can easily follow it without having to do much thinking. All of the characters are clearly unique and different, and they have their own motivations and personalities. There is an honest attempt at world building where the entire environment in which this all takes place is constructed. This movie uses an old style of movie making from the 80s where instead of shifting quickly from one scene to another, there's this lingering where a scene will last for maybe 10 or 15 seconds longer than it otherwise needs to be, just so that the characters can just live and behave and act and talk within this scene, so that you can get a real sense of this environment in which they're living. There's an actual organic connection between the characters and the environment in which they're living and acting out the plot, rather than the setting being just a platform across which the characters can run to get to the next plot point. Another thing is that the previous movie that I watched in this marathon was the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and that movie was covered in vast amounts of very poor and ugly CGI, which meant that the entire understanding of what was natural and what was supernatural fell apart, and it all became just so over the top and unbelievable that you lost your ability to connect with the characters and the plot. But with Beetlejuice, because the computer graphics are so much poorer and so much more obvious, they cannot ever play a role where they're dominating the entire scene. They can only ever play the background role. This reality forces the actual characters and the physical sets to be the dominant part of the movie, and the CGI has to take a back seat simply because it's too inferior to ever play any more of a role. And I'm sure Charlie and the Chocolate Factory would be a far better movie if the CGI had been reduced to something like that. Beetlejuice also used a lot of real makeup, real costumes, so that you actually felt like the characters were actually there. Unlike with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, where the characters were so covered in CGI that you didn't actually think they were actually there in the scene, in that room, doing those things. Beetlejuice has a unique plot, a unique style, unusual characters that you wouldn't expect. They're not tropes. Beetlejuice, although he obviously borrows from certain other characters, is clearly his own person, and it's obvious that he is a unique creation of the screenwriter. And this is an important point because, in general, telling a simple story well is much better than telling an epic story badly. If you just stick to the basics, if you just make sure that your story is good and interesting, and that you can follow it, and that it's enjoyable to watch, even if it doesn't look that nice, even if you don't wow people with the amazing graphics, it will still be an enjoyable experience to watch, which people can go back to again and again, rather than it being just a first-time sugar rush like other movies, like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So the fact that Beetlejuice has such a unique and interesting storyline and tries its best to tell it really well, connected with a really good set of actors that really did a really good job. I can't think of a single performance in the movie where there was a bad acting job or improper, unhelpful acting. So that's why this movie is so interesting and funny and entertaining to watch. I would definitely say that of all the Tim Burton movies I've seen, this one is the best. The movie was able to hit that perfect Goldilocks position between plot and environment, where if you spend too much time establishing the environment, the plot is too slow. While if you spend too much time focusing on having a very fast and driven plot, then you don't ever get a chance to actually know the environment in which this story is taking place. And this movie is able to overcome this by hitting that Goldilocks level. So the scenes always last only as long as they need to make sure that you understand the environment and the scene that was being presented, but everything moves forward at a significant pace so that you really feel engaged with what's happening, who's doing what, and how the story is progressing. So all in all, I would say that Beetlejuice is a very good movie. It's a classic, and it deserves to be placed right up there among the top 1 or 2 of Tim Burton's movies. It's a really good movie.
What sets Beetlejuice apart from other Tim Burton movies is its unique, clever and engaging storyline, making it actually an enjoyable experience to sit down and follow the plot and honestly invest in the events happening on screen. The two main characters, Adam and Barbara Maitland, are two very average people, taken out of their lives of domestic routine and ignorance, and pulled into this fantastical, scary and bizarre world. They don't know what to do, are unable to make sense of all that's happening around them, and are trying their best to figure out a solution to their problems. It's in their very lack of natural skill or know-how that makes them so convincing and relatable characters. The movie doesn't have a protagonist in the normal sense of the word, someone who has consciously decided to take on this momentous adventure and is fully ready to face the challenges and consequences ahead. Barbara and Adam are interesting and well-rounded characters precisely because they have had these immense problems placed upon them without their knowledge or consent, and then they must use every resource, trick, and piece of information they can muster in order to get out of it. These two are so interesting, genuine and strange, but relatable precisely because they are not brave, intelligent, skilled or noble people, but just ordinary, flawed humans trying to make sense of the situation and do their best given the circumstances. Further to this point, neither the Deetzes nor Beetlejuice is a villain in the sense of having malevolent motives and sinful personalities, actively getting in the way of our heroes and wishing to make them fail and suffer. Sure, they are antagonists and are the key opponents within the plot, but they aren't evil in some vanilla kind of way, wanting nothing but darkness and horror in their midst, but are actually colourful and interesting characters in their own right because they are so human, selfish, narrow-minded and imperfect. Moving on to other subjects. The entire movie is very well acted. All the main and supporting cast do a really good job at presenting their characters, not trying to do anything flashy or over the top or noticeable, but just doing solid bread and butter acting. I can't think of any actor or any scene or any performance that I found particularly unconvincing or problematic, so the acting overall in this entire movie was really great. Another element in this movie that makes it unique, fascinating and provocative is the fantasy underworld that it has created. We're allowed to see that it's a world filled with special rules, restrictions, monsters, bureaucracy, magic spells that can do all sorts of crazy and spectacular things, unpleasant places to reside, and nightmarish ghouls that no one would want to face against. And yet we only ever see the tip of the iceberg. So much is left up to our imaginations, and we only ever see enough that we can get a sense of what the entire edifice must be like. We're left with so many unanswered questions and confusing plot points and unresolved complications, which is why the movie leaves so much more of an impression on you than other, more logical, holistic and coherent fantasy worlds. It seems rather counterintuitive that the messier and rougher the movie, the more it sticks out against other movies, and the more likely it's going to be referenced as a unique and fascinating story, but this definitely applies to Beetlejuice. And then the movie ends in a way that isn't full of comforting and easy cliches, everyone gets their happy ending and all the loose ends get neatly tied up. Instead, the ending is somewhat unsatisfying, imperfect, clumsy, and a little creepy. So the reason that Beetlejuice is such a good movie and stands out amongst the other Tim Burton movies is that it tries to subvert expectations with regards to the traditional storytelling model and tropes. It's trying to tell a unique, hitherto untold story. And it works really hard to achieve this, setting up characters, plot devices, and scenes very carefully. And it's able to pull this off so well because it has good acting, good direction, good graphics, and good editing. It pulls off exactly what it sets out to accomplish, and does so with class and wit and charm. So in conclusion, of all the Tim Burton movies I've ever seen, in terms of telling a unique story, telling it well, engaging me, and making me feel and think, Beetlejuice stands out as number one. It is a really terrific movie, it's engaging, fascinating, unusual, funny, and clever.
Okay, this has been Stop Eating My Popcorn, the movie review and discussion show on Biz 99.9 FM Substitute Radio. I'm Glenn Blank. Join me again next time for more movie reviews and discussions. Until next time, goodbye.